Blog number 16, The Unwanted Guest. Ataxia showed up in my life like a loud, obnoxious party crasher. It barged its way right in, interrupting the peaceful proceeding and appearing to be half drunk like it was gracing my festivities after having been previously at another event. It was an uninvited presence, not just as a guest that can eventually be pushed out the door, but it brought along all its baggage, and I knew then that it meant to stay and that this was a permanent situation. And I suspected that it had slipped something into my drink. I was not consulted. I was never asked if it would be okay if a taxi came over, and I was never involved in any long-range planning meetings on the subject. No, my life was not perfect up to this point, but it was, however, without physical challenges. I never had great balance or the adventurous spirit that drives many people, but I was happy. I was married. Just recently we celebrated our 25th anniversary, and I have 3 great kids. And then suddenly one day, there it is, ataxia. The general atmosphere of the whole party changed at that moment because the baggage that ataxia brought with it was all negative. The diagnosis was negative, the outlook was negative, and to my recollection, the diagnosing neurologist was negative. When it showed up in my life, it also brought lots of stress, anxieties, and doubts. Mostly because I had never heard of ataxia, didn't know anyone with ataxia, and didn't see a very bright future. Now, as I sit on 11 plus years of dealing with this unruly guest turned permanent resident, I can say with certainty 3 things. 3 things that really are pretty closely related to each other, but that have helped me stay positive and have kept me on track. To know what they are, all you have to do is send me a blank but signed check. Sorry, couldn't resist. It doesn't have to be blank. Any amount between $20 and $25 will be fine. What? Oh, okay. I'll give them to you for free. The first one is a sense of humor. This one came fairly easy for me once I got past the initial negativity that ataxia brought with it. That, and when I realized that other people actually pay good money to feel for a short time the way I feel pretty much all the time. I don't drink very often or to excess, and I've never really gone for the nightclub scene, but I have on occasion felt like I'm being vigorously shaken in a big metal tube, poured into a glass container, and skewered by a large wooden stake that also has a green olive impaled on it. Not enough can be said about the healing effects of laughter. No, it's true that humor cannot and does not totally and miraculously cure all ills. But a good laugh at an appropriate moment can be a balm to the soul, bring perspective, and take you to a place where you can breathe just a little bit easier. I have found that laughter is also a great divider of barriers and can help break down walls. It can smooth a tense situation, shed some light on a dark moment, and or bring better understanding to a scary and confusing time. I have found in my own life that by telling a joke or sharing a humorous story, I tend to feel more relaxed and comfortable. Humor can rally people together in closer bonds as they begin to identify with one another and realize that they experience things that are a little more universal than they thought. And so the reason I put humor as number 1 is because this was one of the first lessons that I had to learn about myself. That being able to laugh in the face of my ataxia somehow put me in charge, not the other way around. With my diagnosis came the knowledge that I could either laugh at myself and remain positive, or I could cry and make myself and those around me miserable, which would accomplish absolutely nothing. The second thing is maintain Maintain a positive attitude. To me, this one has many moving parts, or can be quite different as it varies between diverse personalities and situations. However, this may all come together and look for others. The way it looks for others is going to be different than how it looks for me. From the very beginning of my personal journey with ataxia, my motto or theme has been to do whatever I can for as long as I can. It may take me longer to do something like, well, pretty much most things. It would be faster to list abilities that are not affected. I never use my disability as an excuse not to do something, but I believe that reality is reality and that I can't keep trying a physical exercise, skill, or motion that I know is just not there anymore. Like I gave up trying to ride a bike back in 2003 upon realizing that I couldn't get very far when after about 2 seconds of wobbling around like a large jello mold, I would follow it up by immediately falling over as poetically artful as a drunk coming off a 3-day bender. As of the present, I am able to walk, so as much as possible I use this ability. I lost my full-time job in 2012, and I started a daily ritual of walking, and at that point was doing between 5 and 7 miles a day. Now, I'm down to about 3.5 and feeling totally wiped out after. Sure, I may not enter any speed walking tournaments in the future, or ever, but the point is that I'm still out there. This seems to be a universal approach by many people who I've met and talked with, but I want to encourage that person who may be looking at a recent appearance of ataxia or other physical ailment or condition. Our situation will be made a little bit easier if we hit it on the head with a smile instead of a frown and continue to focus and use those strengths or abilities that we still have. Third, but certainly not last, is support. I cannot accurately describe to you how big a role this has played in my life or how vital I believe support to be. For the first 9 years of my personal struggle with ataxia, I faced it with the love and the support of family, but I did not know anyone else like me. When I reached out and found a support group, I was amazed, and it really felt good to be with other people who knew my struggles, not because they were sympathizing with me, but because they were living in the same reality I was. It was an inspiring time for me, and I began to seek out any avenue that I could that would put me in touch with others whose struggle is like mine. I now have friends all over, not just the States, but the world. I can't say for sure why this helps, but somehow it just does. It also is a very encouraging thing to be able to ask questions about your symptoms or about various medicines or any other general question that may come up in your own battle, and receive advice, encouragement, and or support, sometimes in a very humorous way. And the beauty of all this is that there's never a dumb question, just friendship and unity and the knowledge that we all have had our party crashed by a variation of the same unwanted guest. In the beginning, I said that these 3 things work together: humor, attitude, and support. You may see it another way, my friends, but in my life, pretty much everything can be and is reflected by these 3 things.